Hey, welcome back to the show. If you're a returning viewer or listener, and if you're new to the show, thank you for checking us out. Coming up, we have a great interview with Pete Evick from Bret Michaels solo band, and we discuss so much cool stuff in this interview. We talk about Bret Michaels and his Malibu and Arizona homes and his private plane. And also, Pete tells me a cool story about Bret turning down an offer to join one of the biggest rock bands of all time. Plus, we're going to talk about Van Halen, Nuclear War, and of course, Pete's two new solo songs, My Best Days and his cover of 99 Red Balloons. This is a great episode. We talk about a lot more, so don't go anywhere. This is a can't miss interview. Can we start with that? Like that sounded interesting. What did Stevie say? I think, was that the thing when I think I read it. He said, nice guy. What did he call the title? It was something about nothing but a nice guy or something like that.
Right. He just sent back his message back as the Armstrong and love and fire. I'd sent him that. There's a handful of people in the industry that I send things before I send to anybody. My friendship with Stevie is that he's so straight up honest about everything. You know, even though the Metal Sludge site has a history of kind of slagging people and the jokes and the bashing and everything, he did more to revive that genre than almost anybody, just by creating that site. People were talking, and but he's always honest, good or bad, when you get to meet him and know him as a person. And so he's usually one of the first people I bounce an idea off of. I probably shouldn't be talking about that publicly or whatever, I don't know. But I sent him the song knowing that if it was terrible, he'd be the first to just tell me it was terrible, And he really took a liking to it and said some nice things about it on his page. I was grateful. It was awesome to see that.
No, that's super cool. Yeah, because you have two new songs out. You have the cover of the 99 Left Balloons and then also an original that I didn't even hear of until today called My Best Days, which is a great song. Yeah,
it came out 2 weeks ago, but it came out early. It was scheduled to come out last weekend. It came out the week before that, and it caught us all off guard. The label and the band and everybody. For some reason, Apple pushed it through a week early.
Huh.
And, so we had this whole marketing plan, and it just fell through.
Interesting. What was the marketing plan?
Well, just as far as announcing the release of the song and the press request and all this different stuff that was, supposed to happen with the song. And then it was just floating out there, and we all kind of panicked to try to raise awareness like instantly.
Yeah, because it's like one of those things where you want like all the publicity at the same time. So it's like this rush at this, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's the start of an interview completely different than it was probably going to go.
No, that's what I want to start with. The two new songs. So yeah, the My Best Days. Talk about what that was about, because it sounds interesting. It's written as an inspiration to those who feel they've already lived past their prime. That sounds like that sounds familiar to maybe me or a lot of people. I'm sure can relate.
Well, I am a fan myself of, there's an enormous amount of, whether it's country music or rock music or anything, there's the lyrical concept of talking about when you grew up. Tons of songs about that, and all those songs, I love nostalgia and I love thinking about back in the day, and I love the reminiscing and all that. But there's a whole lot of, to the point where, and especially once COVID came, there's a whole lot of this kind of my best days have already happened. There was like a doom and gloom attitude that came about. Everyone wished it was 20 years ago, or everyone wished this, or everyone wished that. And I just kept thinking to myself, does anyone think that maybe the future might be brighter than the past? Does anyone think that? I started getting kind of like, man, I don't want to, if my best days were the 80s 30 years ago, then what am I living for? And there's so many songs that just kind of go, oh, I wish we were back together, or I wish it was me and my buddies back in the day and all this stuff. And I just wanted to, and I've written those myself. you know,
Mhm.
and I just wanted to write something that maybe was a little more uplifting. Especially, I wrote it during COVID, and it was just kind of a call to, hey, make the best out of life. Tomorrow can be better than yesterday. And so my best days ain't behind me yet. Just kind of came out.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one good thing about getting older is like you have more wisdom and you know
Sure.
more, you have more knowledge and things where, it's like, what's the song? Like, I wish I knew now I'm probably
That's
fucking,
Poison. Something to believe in. He says that in Something to Believe in.
yeah. It's like, and that's in a bunch of songs too. Like where if you knew what you know now when you're younger, you could have taken advantage a lot better. But that's one thing about it getting older is like the future is like, you're going to learn more and have more wisdom and
Yeah,
hopefully able to share that with other people.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's
So
just
that's
that, yeah, it's the physical thing that sucks about getting older.
sure, sure. I was at the doctor this morning. I like probably 20 years went by that I didn't even go to a doctor. And now I get calls like it's time for you to come in again. I'm like, oh, what is going on?
Well, yeah, you should go at least once a year just to have your annual checkup or whatever, get your blood work and all that crap.
Yeah, no, not when you're on the road and rock and roll. You just pretend you're going to live forever, and you go and you go and you go.
That's dangerous, though. I don't want that to happen. That's why I've seen too many of these rock stars die. I don't like that. I want people to take care of themselves.
I got you. I got you.
Well, yeah. And so then your other song, the cover is, I didn't know it was about the Ukraine thing. And that's kind of what inspired that.
Inspired. Well, yeah. So, in 1984, when that song 99 Red Balloons came out, I was in sixth grade and I was already consumed with hard rock. I was already consumed with Kiss and Van Halen and Twisted Sister and Quiet Riot and Def Leppard. And I was, that's all I wanted to hear. I wasn't a pop guy. I wasn't at that point in my life. I wasn't listening to Duran Duran records or, now I love them, to be honest with you. Now I think Duran Duran's amazing, but, but this song, let me backtrack. I was one of those people that were consumed and petrified by the fear of nuclear war in the late 70s, early 80s. My parents, I had great parents, but they had no rules. I had no rules. I had no nothing. They were great parents, but they didn't shelter me from anything. And because of that, I would see movies or watch news that a lot of kids, other parents would keep them from. And I developed this fear of nuclear war that was crippling to me. And that song was an anti-protest song. And I remember hearing it and thinking, wow, someone feels like I feel. Like the words spoke to me, and I took it personally. I thought that it turns out that Nana didn't write it herself, I guess, but I thought she had written it and she had felt exactly how I felt and that I wasn't alone. So I carried that song with me for a lot of my life, and it was not, to be completely honest with you, as crazy as it sounds, it wasn't until 2012 that I was actually able to kind of shed my end of the world fear, because it started with the threat of nuclear war when I was a kid, but then I was consumed by all the prophecies and all the different things that happened, all the books and all the writings, and so when 2012 came and the Mayan prophecy didn't come true and the end of the world didn't happen, like I was lifted. It was like, oh well, I can start living my life now without this fear. So here it is, 2012. And then so I get, now it's 2022. So I get like 10 solid years of my life of not feeling this fear,
Did you have it during the COVID? Because that seemed like the end of the world for a lot of people.
It wasn't frightening to me. It was very apocalyptic, you know what I mean? But it didn't feel like it wasn't like the bombs were dropping.
Okay.
But so anyway, I've had 10 years of not feeling like the end of the world's coming in this apocalyptic disaster. And then I wake up and I go, I scroll through all the news channels. I'm not one or the other. I go through everything, and even the international channels and everything. And I woke up one morning and the news crawls on all the channels were saying different things, but said nuclear and Russian, nuclear threat, nuclear war, this, that. And we're using the terms, you kept saying Russian because the war in the Ukraine had started, right? And all that childhood fear came back. like in an instant, I freaked out. I was, for the first 2 weeks of it, I was intolerable. No one could stand me. My business partner, Darren, I'd walk in and you could see he was looking for reasons to leave the office himself. My girlfriend didn't want to talk to me. Didn't want anything to do with me on the phone. And, but Bret was sincere. Bret actually called every member of our band and our crew and actually told them all, Pete's going through a really, 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 really rough time. Because we were out doing shows during all this. It was neat. He didn't laugh at me. He was like, he didn't agree with it. He thought I was crazy, but he told everyone, Pete's going through a really strange, rough time. So be cool to him out there if he's acting funky. But but I was intolerable because I was consumed. Like for instance, right up until if we had a show that day, I would literally be staring at the news crawls on my phone from behind my amplifier while the intro tape was rolling. And as soon as we were finished the encore, I came right back. And I was just consumed with the fact that in 2022, the news crawls were using the term nuclear as if it was a real possible threat again. I'd put it all behind me, And you know what? I look back now, how strangely selfish and self-consumed I was, because those people over there are really dying. And I'm over here acting like this in the United States, playing shows in front of sold out crowds of thousands of people and living my life. And I'm acting like something terrible has happened to me. But what's going on over there is disastrous. You know what I mean? And so I was able to subdue it a little bit, actually, till yesterday. Huh. And then and then I hadn't been watching the news or paying much attention to anything. And then yesterday I went home and I was doing a couple of interviews and I put the news on for just a second. And there it was again. The crawl was back to Putin making some kind of nuclear threat. And I was just like, oh man, so the point of that was no one could tolerate me for a while. So I retreated to my studio. And at first I just started playing the song as therapy, just like I used it in 1984. I was just playing the song as therapy. And then I thought about recording it and I started recording it step by step. And then by the time it was done, it sounded pretty cool. So I let a couple of people hear it and they thought it was worthy of release. So I took their word for it and went with it.
Who played the saxophone? Was that the guy in the video playing that or was that you?
No, that's my buddy, Young Devereaux. His name is Young Devereaux.
Okay.
And I've known him for a long, long time. When we were kids, we used to teach music at the same music store. I would teach piano, vocal, and guitar, and he would teach saxophone and I think some other brass. And I got to tell you, he's a tremendous musician. A lot of times, I've done this acoustic gig called This, That, and the Other with Eric Brittingham from Cinderella. Mm-hmm. And we will play basically a bunch of 80s rock covers, but play them acoustically, like Round and Round, or we'll do the Cinderella songs and the Poison songs, and we'll do Quiet Riot and Warrant. We'll do all this stuff. And but I'll invite Young out when he's near us, the saxophone player, and he'll play all of those 80s solos on his saxophone.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds amazing.
It's awesome to see. Yeah, it's cool.
I would totally see that. Okay, wait. So back to the news thing though, so where are you now? Do you feel like it's going to be okay? Because I feel like a lot of those news things, they're just trying to get ratings and they want to scare you. They want to freak you out. So you keep watching and to see what the next thing is. Because, I mean, they've been saying that for how many weeks or months now, like nuclear threat, and nothing's happened. I mean.
Right. Well, I first of all, I never really thought in my brain, I thought, there's no way he would do that because what Putin wants is the land.
Right.
So while he drops that bomb and the land's useless, right? So part of me believed that he would fire a missile our direction, knowing that we would shoot it down, knowing that it would never reach us, but that he would be able to say he did it. Kind of be. He'd be able to say to China and all of our all the other people that don't really love, us. He would be able to say I was the one that had the nerve to do that. It was in my head. I don't think at this point in my life, I think anything is possible. bad and good, right? My fear with him now is he's an egomaniac, and and I say that I'm a Leo and I'm a rock and roll guitar player, so I'm an egomaniac too. Just me saying that and acting like I'm comparing myself to a world leader shows how big my ego is. But I'm not comparing myself to Putin. You understand that? But what I'm saying is, well,
you don't want to hurt people. I know that much.
I do not want to do. But I also don't know that he wants to hurt people. I think that, I've always said this, very unpopular opinion, and I don't know if I've ever said this publicly in a podcast, but, Hitler and Saddam Hussein, they thought they were right.
Yeah. And all the people that followed them think that they're doing the people. I mean, to a lesser degree, you could say the people storming the Capitol in America, they thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were saving the country or whatever.
Right. And so perspective is everything. So, knowing the battle of a fragile and large ego, my fear with Putin is that he's embarrassed now that he couldn't crush this small country in 24 hours. So I know what it's like when I feel like I'm being laughed at, or if someone thinks that I didn't achieve my goal. Like, I know what that feels like, just being a guitar player, or being a world leader that's supposed to be the second or third biggest, most powerful, big bad country in the world. His fragile ego is going to be the worst thing that could happen to any of us, I think.
Well, and now I think he's getting surgery or something for, was it cancer or some sort of...
My business partner told me yesterday, I think that he signed over, second in command is in charge right now or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
And they say that guy's crazier than Putin. He's more vicious or something.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But ultimately, now I just scared you more. That. Great. No, but ultimately, like, it's one of those things where there's literally nothing you can do. We have zero control over that. Right. So like,
that's correct.
I mean, that's where it's like, I think, like where Bret's saying he's going through a strange time, because it's probably Bret's like, well, there's nothing I can do about this. So that's where he probably doesn't worry about it. But for whatever reason, you're focused on this and like freaked out.
It's funny you say that, because Bret has a habit of at all costs trying to help anybody at any time. If he's talking to somebody and they say, I'm having trouble getting new tires on my car, he'll just go give that money to whoever it is. Or he always, even if it's something he knows nothing about, he will try to offer some advice and some help. He likes to, right?
So if say there was like a struggling podcaster that wanted him to do my show, like I could just reach out and be like, hey, you want to help me out and do my show?
If you can get directly to him.
That's the problem. I know where he lives. He lives like 10 miles, 20, 30 miles from me. I'm in Arizona. I've been to his house. I mean, I've stalked him. I've driven by. I don't go in a driveway or whatever. He's got a big gate, but yeah.
I'm very aware of that gate. I've spent an enormous amount of my life behind it.
Oh, okay. You're on the good side. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Actually, he sold that house during COVID.
Oh, did he?
He's gone. Yeah. Which is terrifying to me, because Scottsdale is my favorite place in the United States.
Hey, you come crash with me. It's not as nice as Bret's ranch, but got a nice warm couch or a blow up bed for you.
But back to my point.
Yeah.
Is that when this all first went down, I was talking to Bret and he got real silent and he goes, well, I can't help you. And it was the first time in our 20-year friendship that he'd said anything like that at all. I stumped him with my fear of all this. He couldn't help me. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Robert Mason lives out there too.
That's right. Yeah. And Marcus Scott from Trickster, and Dave Ellefson from formerly of Megadeth.
Has been out there a long, long time, man.
Yeah.
And Lita Ford's in Arizona now too.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I would love to get her on the show. That'd be amazing.
She's over on the Apache Junction side, but I don't think she's in Apache Junction, but she's over there somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's a beautiful Lost Dutchman, that's mountains. I don't know if you know that, like the legend of that. There's a cool ghost town, like a really cool mountain. It's amazing. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. So yeah, I mean, the only thing you could do is like, I guess you could buy a bomb shelter. Is it?
Oh, I've thought about that a lot of times. Yeah, yeah.
Because that was a big thing in the 60s and stuff when there was like threats of
It's big now. Have you done the research? It's huge now.
well, yeah, well, they have all those TV shows like what are they called? Like disaster planning or whatever.
The prepper people.
Preppers, yeah, the doomsday preppers.
But if you do some research, there's millionaires and billionaires that have bomb shelters now that
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
but they're like mansions underground. It's you can type it in research. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Oh, it'd be so cool. Yeah, so Bret doesn't have one of those that he could let you come crash at?
Nah.
Damn it. See, that's what he needs to do. I mean, he's got the private jet. He needs the bomb shelter. Doomsday.
Well, he would be more to get in the plane and just fly around the earth until it all settled down instead of going underground. He's claustrophobic. He likes it. He likes his space and his outdoorness. Putting him underground would kill him faster than the bomb itself.
Oh, interesting. God, that'd be not a bad way to spend the time either, though, just flying around. So you've been because I'm not really that. I mean, I guess it's cool to see like fancy resorts and fancy homes and fancy cars. But to me, I tell people, I'm like, that stuff doesn't really motivate me. Now, I hate flying commercial though. So you've flown in his private jet. What is that like? That's got to ruin you for commercial flying.
It does not. I actually make a joke all the time. It's like pulling teeth to get me on that thing.
Really?
Yeah, I always tell his pilot every time I get up in that plane, I say, "Don't make me famous today," because that's where guitar players die are on those planes.
Oh shit! God, that was dark.
Randy Rhoads, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
What was it Buddy Holly or not Buddy Holly, but the Big Bopper? Yeah. No,
Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper.
Yeah. So guitar players die in those things.
Well, yeah. Not as recently though. I think they've gotten better at. I hope.
Sure. All jokes aside, the plane's cool.
Yeah.
It's the idea of driving your car right up to the plane, not going through security, and just walking up to it. There's all the luxury of getting up there and whatever food you want is up there, and there's just two people on this plane. All that stuff is just rich people stuff that doesn't matter at all to me. But I hate airports, and I hate
me
that.
too.
So the idea of just driving up and stepping on your plane while someone else parks your car.
That's so amazing. I'm so jealous of that. That is I'm jealous of a lot of stuff. You get to play with Bret and hang out, but that is one of the coolest. The private jet thing would be such a great perk.
Yeah. That jet actually helps our band because we can get places we can do a gig in one place and another gig completely somewhere else that sometimes we can't do if we had to fly commercially just because of layovers and different things like that. We did this. There was one point where we went from Canada to Mexico back to Canada. And it would not have been able to happen without that plane. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. It's super cool without a doubt.
Yeah. No, I always feel like, because I always get stuck to like either a screaming baby or like someone that's like really large and like taking up two seats, or somebody like who smells bad. Like I always get stuck next to these like crazy people, and then just going through security at it's so annoying.
Security stuff. I have gotten to the point where if a show is 8 hours or less from me, I'll just drive it.
I love driving. I love road trips. It's so fun. It's so relaxed. I turn on my own music. I get space out.
I have one of those brand new 2021 Ford Broncos.
Oh, you got one of those? Wow.
Yeah. And I got it in July. And I just yesterday I've already got 40,000 miles on it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I drive it everywhere.
Yeah, see, I'm not much of a Ford guy, but those things look really cool. I gotta say, like those, cool. Like that was like when they brought the Mustangs back, and I was like, I'm not a Ford guy, but those Mustangs are badass.
So interestingly enough, I got one of those Mustangs when they first came out too, for that exact reason. My father worked for Ford his whole life, and he was an auto mechanic, and he brought me home a '67 Mustang on my 16th birthday.
Damn.
But I didn't want it back then. To me, To me, it was an old car, and to him, it was a project that me and him were going to do together. And that was, in 1986 or 87. And I just wanted a car that I didn't want a project. I wanted, you know what I mean?
Right.
All my friends at that day and age, things were different. The world wasn't rich and people weren't getting super nice cars, but everybody got a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic, or that's what you got in my world when you're 16. And I wanted something similar to what my friends were getting. So then I had that car for about 3 months, and I finally explained it to him, and then I was able to get a Mustang of that, a current Mustang of that era. You know what I mean?
Because those 80s Mustangs were terrible. That was the worst era.
It was terrible. But
should have got a Camaro or something. That would have been cool. An IROC.
Yeah, right. So anyway, when I had just joined Bret's band for the first year when that Mustang came out, and we were driving around. We were riding the bus all the time, and I kept seeing him on the roads, and I kept staring at him, and I just loved it. And I told Bret the story about my childhood and my dad and the Mustang and all this stuff. And so when that tour ended, he gave me a check, and it wasn't for the full amount, but it was. He said to me, next time I see you, I want you to have one of those Mustangs. If you don't, I want this check back.
Damn.
Yeah. So
just like a bonus check or whatever.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I went and got one. So yeah, I'm a Ford guy, and then the same nostalgia came back to me when the Broncos came out, and I fought it for a while. You could ask my girlfriend or my son or Darren, my business partner, or even Bret. I was silent about it and quiet and didn't think much about it, putting it behind me because I really wasn't in a position I didn't need to or ready to buy a new vehicle. And then something happened, and I drove by the dealership that my father used to work at, and they had one sitting there, and then I just went nuts. And all of a sudden, that day I had to have it. And so I went and talked to the dealership. And at this time, I didn't realize how hard they were to get. I didn't understand the demand for the thing. So I didn't want the one they had on the lot. I wanted a very specific one. It was called Area 51 Blue is the color that it is. And it was the Outer Banks package. There's all these. So I happen to know someone really high up in the Ford organization because Bret, one of Bret's songs that I had produced and co-written called Driven was used in a Ford commercial a couple of years ago. And so we got to know all the people real tight. We've played private parties for the Ford organization and everything. And so I called my friend that is basically second seat to Bill Ford and company. And I said, I need this car today. I have to have this one. And they helped me look all over the country, and there wasn't any available in the whole country right then. But it turned out that exact model was on order to be sent to the Ford dealership that my dad had worked at, that I was at. So
wow, synchronicity, they call that.
It was weird. So they sped up the delivery to it and got it there, and I picked it up a couple days later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you like it?
My favorite car I've ever owned. It's cool. It's without doubt cool. Yeah.
That's really neat. So when you it's interesting, like I was going through your history, like I know you've been in Bret's band for what, 17 years?
19.
Okay. But
actually it might be 19 today or 19 tomorrow, I think is my the first week of May is 19 years.
But I didn't know you actually you also tried to audition when Cece left in 91, 92, and you sent the band a tape and they respond. I don't know if the band, but the management or somebody responded to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I was much younger, but I was an enormous Poison fan. Me and my drummer Chuck, I have videos of us playing Cry Tuff and Unskinny Bop and Nothing But a Good Time in high school talent shows. So a friend of mine a local musician. His name was Michael Fath, who was one of those guitar hero guys. He'd gotten a lot of attention. He'd been on the cover of Guitar World magazine. He had a few records out, but he was an instrumental guitar player, just like Vi or Satch, any of those guys. He was in that world, but he lived here in Virginia. He had done the audition, and they had told him no. And he gave me all the information. He goes, I know you love this band. Give it a shot yourself. And so I did. And it was just, I thought I had a shoe in because I was from the mid-Atlantic where they were from, you know, and their label and, you know, whether they were truly looking for it or not, in that era and time, it was crucial for them to get a guitar hero.
Right. They had to have a guy with a name, with recognition at that point, right? Especially because the 90s was happening. Is like, they really needed to like get the biggest name that they could. Because they really narrowed it down to Richie Kotzen and Blues. So
well, they had both of them eventually.
Yeah,
Richie
right.
Did one record, and then Blues did the next record.
Yeah.
And, Richie is such an amazing player, and that record is still amazing. I know it doesn't sound like a Poison record to a lot of people, but what amazing songs they are.
Yeah, that was when I was first starting to get into music, and I loved the that whole record. Like every song on the record, to me, it was like I would listen to that in high school, just like on repeat, just over and over and over. I was like, oh, this is such a cool record. I was actually probably my favorite Poison record at the time.
Sure. I went back and forth. Some of that is my favorite music of all time. I hold Cat Dragged In close to my heart because Cry Tough is still one of my favorite songs. But I would say my favorite records Open Up and Say Ah, with Back to the Rockin' Horse and Nothing But a Good Time. I like that, and I like the sound of that record. I loved it.
Yeah, no, those first two are, well, the first three they're huge albums, but I go back now. I think now we just did another podcaster and we did a ranking of Poison albums, and I can't remember what I said now, but I think I said the first one might be my favorite because I go back and I go, the energy on that is just so raw and just like kind of like the first Motley Crue record, Too Fast for Love, where it's just
the same story, the same that no one really was interested enough, so they did it themselves, you know.
Yeah, and it just sounds like, but you feel that they're just like, we're gonna take on the fucking world, and like they just come in balls out and just play, and it's like, oh, okay. And then obviously the musician and the production gets better over the years, but there's something special about those first albums where you're just like, they've been saving it up.
I say that all the time when I talk to people. What you just said is exactly right. The biggest example in music history to me of that first album is the Hootie and the Blowfish record, right?
Oh, that's not what I was expecting you to say. I thought you were going to say Appetite for Destruction or something.
Well, no, but let me tell you why. Is take yourself out of being a rocker and just talk about the music business. The Hootie and Blowfish record blew up. I mean, if you remember, it was unstoppable. I think it was the first record to break all of Def Leppard's numbers as far as album sales and amount of singles off of one record and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was an unstoppable force. You could not go anywhere without being faced with hearing Hootie and the Blowfish at that time, right? And that second record, I bet you don't even know there was a second record.
Was it that bad?
It was terrible. It was terrible. And I credit that to what you just said. You have your entire life to write your first record. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of money and a bunch of people breathing down your throat trying to tell you to write that second record in under a year. That's hard, man. You know, so anyone that has a second record that's any good, Poison, Motley Crue, you know, Bon Jovi, anyone that gets to that second record and it's better than the first, that's undeniably amazing thing to happen.
No, it is. And I think it's the hunger and I mean, there could be so many factors too, but I don't know if you're a Joe Rogan fan, but I was listening to this interview the other day. He was talking and he was telling the story about like Stephen King and how he wrote like the first few books that he wrote, he was like coked out and like just on all these drugs and shit. And he was writing like The Shining and Carrie and Cujo, like all these like really dark stuff. But then when he got cleaned up, like he was still a good writer, but it just didn't have that like crazy viciousness of those first books because he was all fucking nuts.
Yeah, right. You know, it's funny. I am a Joe Rogan fan. for during COVID, he got me and my girlfriend through it. I think we spent most of COVID just binging Joe Rogan stuff all the time. He's fascinating. I was always a fan of him, even from Fear Factor. I thought he was a cool guy, and I all the different things he's done. But to be honest with you, I found the show because of David Lee Roth being on it.
Oh, really? The most recent time he was on it?
No, the first time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the most recent time he was on it, I couldn't get through that episode. I think halfway through, I was like, this is weird. I gotta bail.
Well, did you see where at some point in the second episode, Dave gets up and goes to the bathroom, and the cameras are all on, and Joe goes, "That dude's out there." But it was funny to me. I don't, I live and die for Van Halen. They are they are and I'm a Hagar fan from beginning.
Well, yeah, no, you have some cool stories about him, and he's giving you props, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that you know that stuff, but watching those Roth interviews is just amazing, man. It's part of me thinks he's the biggest clown in the music industry, and part of me knows that he actually knows stuff we just don't know. He's on a different plane and having a hard time to communicate it to the rest of us. I go back and forth with what do I really think about him.
Did you ever see that video of him in, I think it's in Vegas Hotel, and he hears like the early Van Halen record playing, and then they go and knock on the door, and the guys have no idea who he is. It's the most awkward thing, but funny at the same time.
Yeah. No, but have you seen somebody did a mashup? They take Joe Rogan out of it, and they put David Lee Roth and Steven Tyler's interviews with Joe Rogan together. And it makes it look like they're talking to each other. Have you not seen that?
No, but that sounds hilarious.
Dude, as soon as this is over, you have to look that up.
Okay, I will definitely do that. Yeah, because I don't even think I saw Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler was on Rogan?
Years ago.
Okay.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But it's the most amazing thing because Tyler, much like Roth, doesn't make a lot of sense except for in his own head when he's talking. And they just go back and forth. I can't explain it. You have to watch it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, they're both of those guys, though, are such legends. I mean, they could do whatever the hell they want. And hey, I'm fine with it because you fricking made some of the best music of all time. Yeah.
It's funny. Me and Bret went to see Aerosmith one night, and that's one of Bret's favorite bands. And,
sure.
I've been fortunate enough to know that I know a lot of people. I've gotten to do a lot of things and live out super dreams but the Aerosmith guys are somewhat untouchable. You don't hear about guys hanging out with those guys a lot. You know what I mean? And so we show up. We have a night off, and we take Bret's plane to somewhere in Michigan, and we go, and we're coming the back door, and we're walking down, and Steven walks by, and hey, Bret, how you doing? And it was just neat to see. I see people excited to see Bret as a fan, but knowing that Bret loves Aerosmith so much, seeing someone that was an idol to him embrace that he was there. It was neat to see it from that perspective. And then we saw Joe later, and Joe was very excited. And Joe played on one of me and Bret's records, actually, the Jam with Friends record. But Steven, what a legend! What a legend! He's kept it together where a lot of people haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them. I've never actually seen them live, but I've heard that they still sound great. Like Steven's voice he can still do the screams and stuff.
I remember a couple of years ago, maybe it's 10 years now. There was talk that Steven was going to leave Aerosmith, or he was going to leave, but it was temporary. There was something similar to the Guns N' Roses situation. Maybe it was because he was going to do that solo record and the band wanted to still tour or whatever. Anyway, they were managed by the same company as Bret, HK Management at the time. And HK Management had approached both Bret and Sammy Hagar, and God knows who else, about filling in, right? And I was privy to both of Sammy's response and Bret's response, and both were, Bret was just simply, I can't do that. The idea of trying to fill Steven's shoes is the fact that you made this call is amazing, but you're ridiculous. end this conversation. You know.
Well, he's such a different style of singer. He can't scream high like that.
He can do it.
Can he?
Oh yeah, yeah. When you get Bret in the right mood, he'll give you his Steven Tyler impersonation, and he's influenced by him a lot. Let's just say that he can do it.
Really?
Yeah. But Hagar's response was, "I'm just the same thing. I'm honored that someone would ask me that. But if I did that, I would suddenly just be the guy that replaces other legends."
Yeah, I didn't know that. Is it so that they were officially offered, or they were just offered like an audition or something? Or
it wasn't auditions. It was, hey, Steven's going to take a break from the band, and we want to keep the band on the road. Do you want to do this?
So just fill in temporarily.
Yeah.
Okay. And they both said no. So then were those the only two choices? Because that never happened.
Like I said, it's only because I know those situations. I don't know who else they called or what happened. I don't.
Okay.
Know.
Well, I hope I didn't get you in trouble by talking about it.
I think I brought it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I know that there's webcasts somewhere where Sammy's talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What other dirt do you have? I like this stuff. Inside information.
I don't know if that's really dirt or not, but tell me about that autographed Warrant poster you have back there.
Oh no, yeah, I bought that at a show. I don't really have a. They were just here in Arizona. It was like Warrant, Skid Row, and Winger, and I had never seen Winger. And Winger was like they opened the show, but they were really good. And
Reb Beach, Reb has played with me and Eric in our acoustic band a couple times, and it's hard to sit by that guy and think of yourself as a good guitar player because he's a lot better.
Oh, he's insane. Yeah, I've been trying to get him on the show for years. I finally just had Paul Taylor, their keyboard player, and he's awesome too.
What a calm and cool guy. Paul's super, super cool.
Yeah, and he co-wrote have you heard the new Skid Row song, The Gang's All Here?
Yeah.
He co-wrote that, and I was like, I love that. That's one of the best songs I've heard of any band in the last like 20 years, in my opinion. Like, it's so good.
It certainly sounds so. I was not an enormous fan of Slave to the Grind, but I was an enormous fan of the first Skid Row record. And so hearing that song, I was really happy to hear that song because that sounds like what I wanted the next Skid Row record to sound like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It sounds like right after the first album. It sounds like where it should have gone.
Yeah, it sounds like it was in 1990. Like they wrote it right after the first record, and it was like in between, because it's a little heavier than the first record, but not to the point of Slave to the Grind.
Yeah, there was when we were doing the acoustic gig, and it's kind of just a free for all jam session, not really rehearsed. And I would, I'd be playing and singing a song, and I'd look over to Reb, and I'd be like, "All right, do the solo," and he'd go like, "No, you do the solo." I'm like, "What do you mean, me do the solo? You like, why? I'm not playing nothing. I'll play chords in front of you, but I'm not playing solos in front of Reb Beach." But every time he's like, "No, you go ahead and do it." I'm like, "No, it's all you. Go ahead."
Well, you must be. I mean, you play CC's solos. Those got to be hard to replicate, I would think.
But I was a huge CC DeVille fan. I was very influenced by CC. So, but his very unique style, and not everybody can fill the shoes to. Anyone can play the stuff, but to do it justice and make the fans feel like, I try every night to over 20 years and 19 years now. I've evolved the solos into a lot of my own personal feel, but I still remain really true to, like every night when we do Every Rose, when it's over, Bret goes, "Pete Evick, note for note." I say this a lot when we were all growing up on that music, CC and Mick Mars weren't rated as guitar heroes, right? They weren't Malmsteen, and they weren't Steve Vai, and they weren't Edward Van Halen. But here we are all these years later, and those are the two guys that are still here. Those are the two guys that are still relevant, and people are coming to see them play in arenas. Dokken opens up for Poison now. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I credit that to the fact that you can hum every note to the Fallen Angel solo like it's a vocal melody, and you can hum every note to Every Rose Has Its Thorn. I can't hum you an Yngwie Malmsteen song, Save My Life.
Well, no, and that's interesting that I heard you say that when you were learning guitar, you learned the solos, but you paid more attention to the song structure than the solos. That was more where you listened to, which I was like, oh, that's actually really smart as a guitar player. Because like you said, anyone could play the solos. No, not anyone, but a lot of guitar players. But writing a good song is like way more. And that's probably why people are going to see Poison and Motley Crue. It's because of the songs. They're not going to, I mean, maybe they're not as technically crazy as Malmsteen and stuff, but not as many people want to see that.
Right. No, it's true. It's very important. At 25 years old, I became a singer instead of a guitar player and a guitar player. And once you become a singer and start focusing on that part, you realize what the real important role of a guitar is in a rock song. A good solo is a good solo, and anyone wants to see talent. I mean, look at the Van Halen stuff, but songwriting is the solo is just the hood ornament on a nice car.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Van Halen, I think, had both. And that's what people tell me when I ask guitar players about it. They're like, well, it was the songs more so than the solos. The solos too, yes. But like you said, it's like the hood ornament.
I was having a discussion with my son just last week. The Van Halen thing was a perfect storm. I mean, I understand I'm an enormous fan, but it's never in history is there that moment where there's pop sensibility and lightning like energy and good songs with incredible talent. Because Eddie's great, but so was Alex. Alex was every single bit a unique and strange drummer as Neil Peart. They're on par with each other with that talent. Alex did some incredibly strange things and different time signatures. And even that beginning to Panama that everyone hums and plays, and every cover band in the world plays it. If you really listen to what's happening, and the second turnaround comes in on the and, or the E of the and right before that note, it's that the musical talent that was in Van Halen, you don't see that in pop success. You don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a perfect storm. And you can credit that to David Lee Roth's good looks. You can, there's no guitar hero that isn't famous because their singer. Yeah. Every truly famous guitar hero has a charismatic singer that got him there. I hate to say it.
No. And I love, what's cool about Van Halen is like, it's such a variety. Like the song, I think one of my favorite songs, if not the number one favorite Van Halen song for me, was Hot for Teacher. And I just love the intro. It starts off with the drums and it's just total drums. There's nothing else. And then it kicks into the guitars. And I'm like, that's just a badass way to begin that song. Yeah.
And those guys, if you know enough about their history, they probably just walked in the studio and one of them started playing and the other started playing. And it was probably never even meant to be anything but a warm up. And then it becomes a song,
isn't that the story with Eruption? He was just warming up and Templeton's like, hey, let's turn that on. Let's make that a song.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to see Van Halen rehearse the night before in Charlotte, North Carolina, the night before their debut show with the Roth as the comeback. The tour kicked off in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was invited down to the day before to watch the rehearsals, and Dave didn't show up.
Right. Is this one Wolfie sang or something?
Yeah. I've told this story a lot of times. But Wolfie was singing. That's why I got real defensive when the tour started and everyone started talking about the tracks they were playing to. And I wanted to be a one-man army to say, man, I fucking saw it with my own eyes. I watched this kid sing the lead vocals, and I watched him. They took a break and came back and did a couple of the Sammy riffs and songs for a couple of minutes, and he was singing it. And but my point was, I watched for 3 hours the three Van Halens play. And Michael's a friend of mine, and Michael's a tremendous bass player. But I watched the three of them play, and the best thing I could describe, it was like we're always told a hive is, like a bee company or an ant company. It wasn't like unison, like we think of unison as music. They were working like a hive. Those three guys playing together. It is embedded in my skull. I will never forget seeing it without Dave and just watching them play music together for 3 hours. And they were breathing together in time. They were blinking their eyes together in time. It was just the most insane, magical thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that must have been amazing. And too, like you're getting like a private show basically.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was in that entire empty arena, other than Van Halen and the crew, it was Valerie Bertinelli and her new husband at the time, and me and my ex-wife. There was only 4 people in the whole place. It was unbelievable.
Oh, that's insane. Wow.
Yeah.
You have a lot of stories like that where you're seeing these like private kind of rehearsals and things. And
Well, my perspective is different. I'm a little bit younger than most of the guys that do what I do. And so, for instance, I'll give you an example. Eric Brittingham, Cinderella bass player Cinderella, who was in our band for quite a few years. He's 61 or 62 years old now, right? So and I think you're a good bit younger than me. How old are you?
44.
So you're 44. I'm 49. We're about the same age. Oftentimes, you and me maybe think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but we think, all the members in Motley Crue must love Rat, and all the members of Rat must love Poison, and all the members of Poison must love Motley Crue and Rat because they were all growing up playing that music together. But the truth of the matter is, they were influenced by the 70s music. Bret, I'm not saying Bret doesn't love that music, but by the time you are a successful musician, your influences are something of the past. Bret's influences were Van Halen, Kiss, Aerosmith, and Leonard Skinner. You know what I'm saying? Eric's influences were the 70s rock stuff. So sometimes it's hard when I'm talking to these guys that are my friends and peers now, and I'm like, man, I love this band and I love that band. And sometimes they don't even know that band. Not in a mean way or just, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I can relate that to them. I got my first record deal in the middle of that in the late 90s and 98. And my first record had a very 90s sound. We had a very like Bush meets Matchbox 20. There was pop sensibility with the sound of the grunge era.
Was that Some Odd Reason? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Some Odd Reason. And but we would be out there and I'd be doing interviews and stuff, and people would say, what do you think of this band? It would be another current band. And I didn't know who they were because my influences were the 80s stuff. So my point to that is all these guys that are now, the guys in Firehouse are some of my best buddies. The guys in Warrant are like brothers to me, but I still have to fight the fanboy in me. So I get real excited to go up and watch them sound check still. I'm 20 years veteran into this with Bret. Most people don't last that long in this kind of situation. Like Blando been in Vince's band for, I guess, that long too. But, most people get a couple years in and something goes wrong or they get out. And so I'm jaded and I'm bitter and all those things that come with being in the rock and roll business your whole life. But I still get real excited to see some of my heroes bands at these sound checks. And I enjoy the stories I get to tell and the things that I've gotten to see that a lot of people get to see, but the perspective through my eyes being a, professional, but still being a fan is an interesting perspective I've gotten to have without a doubt.
No, absolutely. So why do you think that is that you've been able to last so long in a solo gig? Because you're right, a lot of the solo musicians, they just go through band members for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe they just get sick of you or bored, or they just want to mix it up, but you've been able to stick with Bret so long.
Well, me and Bret hit it off right off the bat. There's a lot of similarities and there's a brotherhood between me and him that is important. Because I was the singer and songwriter of my own band for many years, I'm able to understand and respect the wants and needs of a singer. A lot of times a hired gun guitar player never really understands the perspective of being a singer. So I think that's part of the relationship. We shared a lot of same business views, a lot of same things. But also Bret's not a hired gun guy. He didn't go out to LA and pick any of the normal guys. He's a homegrown guy and was happy to have someone that wasn't on the scene looking for his next gig, if that makes sense. Hired guys get a gig and then first thing they do as soon as they get that gig is start wondering what their next gig is a lot of times, which is fine. that's the way it goes. That's how that business works. I wasn't looking for that. I'd had several opportunities to do different things in my life and said no to all of them. A couple that could have been game changers for my financial situation and my profile in rock and roll. But I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be jump from band to band, hired gun guy. And Bret recognized that in me, and we created a bond that's kept me there for 19 years.
What were the things that you were offered that you turned down?
I had a chance one time to join to be the music director to one of those Cirque du Delay things. The
Vegas shows.
Yeah. But it was one of the traveling ones that was going around the world.
Okay.
And the money was enormous. And the profile would have been cool to get to do that on that level. That is worldwide. Fame, those shows. There was an opportunity early on before Buckcherry was signed to get into that camp.
Wow, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Was that before Bret Michaels?
Way before.
Okay. So wait, why did you turn that one down then?
So that's an interesting story. It was the resurgence of 80s rock had not come yet.
Yeah.
And I was out on the road with my band, Some Odd Reason, and that band was breaking up. And I knew it was breaking up. And I was having a conversation with my lawyer. And my lawyer happened to know of a new band that was in development at the time, I think with Geffen Records. I think it was Geffen. I can't remember the whole story. But there was a lot of details that aren't my story to tell, to be honest with you. But there was some imaging things going on and some different things that provided an opportunity they needed another guitar player. And so the conversation I had with somebody was this is tricky because I don't want to sound negative. I'm just telling you the story as how it sounded.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation I had was a description of our band kind of has that late LA sound, like LA Guns. The term I'll never forget, I was told LA Guns. And I remember being upset with my lawyer for leading me down that path at all, because again, the 80s resurgence hadn't happened yet. And so I thought to myself, why would I want to join? As much as I love the music and that sounded cool, it sounded like a cool idea personally to me, how was that going to move my career forward, being in a band that is part of the past that no one wants to listen to right now? Right.
So it's more of you're making a business decision rather than making a decision with your heart, which is like your heart might be like, oh, that sounds amazing, but you're trying to make a career out of it.
So maybe a year and a half later, I'm out on the road with my band, and my singer at the time knew the story. And all of a sudden we hear this song. We can't fucking believe it. This song called All Lit Up. You remember, right?
Oh yeah. I know the song.
And it sounds just like Shock Me from Kiss. It's an identical riff, right? It is the coolest thing I'd heard in 10 years. And that DJ goes, that's a brand new band called Buckcherry. And my singer looks over at me, and I just, at that time, I was probably playing I think we were in Texas, and I was about to play for $200, schlepping it out, trying to, make your original music happen. And I just thought to myself, if that motherfucker would have said we sound like Kiss instead of LA Guns, everything, my entire life might have been different. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So you would have joined if it sounded like Kiss, but
I would have had a lot more interest, because to me, Kiss was my first influence in my life, and Kiss was timeless.
Yeah.
Kiss had already put their makeup back on and was selling out arenas, and they weren't they were cool again.
Well, yeah, I think that you should have said it sounds like Kiss meets LA Gun with a modern twist, because I think that would have been a better description, because it definitely, there's a little bit of all that stuff in it, but it's definitely not a Kiss ripoff. It's not an LA Guns ripoff. They're their own band. So,
but and who knows if I ever would have made it? They might have met me and hated me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But had that been worded, the moral of that story is from now on, at least hear it with your own ears. I didn't even want to hear it. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
So
you get a lot of those kind of offers though, because like you probably can't listen to everything, right?
No, not that stuff doesn't come my way much anymore. But back then, I was looking for, I never wanted, like I said, I never wanted to join another band. That wasn't my thing. But I was always looking for how to feed my children, right? And so there was opportunities that come through. I've forgotten more than I'll ever remember, to be honest with you. But that particular story and the story about the I can't ever say that, circuit delay. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, no, those are two amazing offers. Wow, Buckcherry would have been. So then, how did you? I don't know if I know the whole story about how you did end up joining Bret's band. I think was Evick your band opening for him at some point? Is that how you got to know him?
Yeah, well, yes. The first two solo tours he did, I opened up. My band had done opening spots with him, and the guitar player at the end of the second tour wasn't going to come in on the third year, and him and Jana, who works for Bret, and Big John, we'd all developed relationships and friendships, and all three of them had told Bret that I was the guy. It just made sense. And so prematurely, Bret got a gig in Detroit. I love this story. I told this story yesterday. He called me and he goes, "Hey, I got this gig, and instead of bringing my whole band from LA in, why don't we just bring your whole band together? And that way you don't have to go rehearse with these new guys you've never played with. Just bring your band and we'll play." It's a little radio gig. He called it a little radio gig. And my idea of a little radio gig and his idea of a little radio gig are two completely different things. So we get there and we don't even rehearse with Bret. Bret just tells us what songs to do. And I show up that day and it's 15,000 people. That's
crazy.
That's not little to me, right?
No, that's huge.
And it was terrible. It was a disaster. And then a couple of days later, he called me on the phone. He goes, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Oh, it's awful." And he goes, "Well, that's the good news, because if he would have said it was good, then we'd have a problem, And he goes, "I've watched your band for 2 years. I know how good you guys are. Maybe we approached this wrong." He goes, "I'm doing this other show. I got a show in a couple of weeks at Nashville on Memorial Day weekend in front of a sold out crowd, 33,000 people, opening for Leonard Skinner." But he gave me the information that time. I understood what I was walking into. And he says, "Just come on down and just be you. Don't worry about anything else. Just be you." And we played the gig, and halfway through it, or at the end of Nothing But a Good Time, he gave me a high five and we smiled, and it's 19 years later.
Wow. That's cool that he gave you a second chance.
Yeah. I gave him a second chance too.
Yeah. Well, so did he.
I'm just kidding.
Because you didn't have enough time to rehearse. Is that what it was? Or you just weren't prepped for a big show and you got nervous, or what happened?
No, it was a combination of, it's kind of hard to explain, but we knew all the Poison songs. We'd been playing them our whole life.
Okay.
So we played them correctly. And he asked us to learn the Poison songs. We played them correctly. But what neither of us took into consideration, that we both knew, we were both smart enough to know, is those songs in the live set have evolved over 30 years. They are not played just like the record by any means. Right.
Gotcha.
And that was pre-social media. So there wasn't a go on YouTube and look at how we did it. Do you know what I'm talking about? There wasn't go look at the live versions.
Right. Out. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got up and played great, we played the Poison songs as if we were the best Poison cover band in the world, but they weren't the way he was used to hearing them anymore.
Okay. So it's just some miscommunication more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. 19 years later, still there. And then, yeah, you've got the solo songs out. And then I guess I didn't know you had a book. I haven't read that yet. And then do you still have the sauce company? Is that still a thing? The sauce spice thing?
The answer to that is technically yes. No, it's too much. I had too much. The candle company, Shining Soul, was taking off, and in my brain, it was starting to function enough without me that I said, "Oh, you try to start something new." But then the company grew to the point where me and my partner Darren still have to be hands on deck, almost 24/7. So
with the candle, Shining Soul.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I'm sitting here at our warehouse right now doing this interview.
Oh. So how does that work with the shows with Bret? Just you make it all work together though.
I have an incredible partner and an incredible team.
All right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But without a doubt, when I'm home and not on the road, I'm in this building, usually lately at 7:30 in the morning, but no later than 8:30, and I'm here till minimum 7:30, usually 9:00 at night every night. If I'm, there's a lot to do, and we're running. We've been incredibly fortunate to create what we've created. We have a manufacturing facility and 3 retail stores across 3 different states and 250 different stores around the United States that carry our products constantly. It became something uncomprehendable to me.
And do you like it? Do you love being in the business of candles and all that?
Do we like it, Darren?
What I didn't hear.
Yeah. I don't even know the answer.
Well, yeah. What do you enjoy? Is it your passion now as much as music, or if you're spending that much time on it, I would think so.
Well, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate. In fact, sometimes that's a detriment to business is sometimes you have to remove your passion and make the right business decisions. And that time to time is hard for me. Making with me, the passion of the candle business is the creation of new products, coming up with a different fragrance or a different scent. It's just like writing a song. So making a new product is like making a new record to me. And it still feels very much like that. And maybe that's not how other companies do it, but in my brain, I treat it with the same process. I demo it, and then I make the real version, the final record, and then we make a release, and then we do press about it, and all this stuff. So yeah, but the shift changes once you have what we have, and we have 30 some employees. All of a sudden, what's important is that your employees are getting their paycheck. All of a sudden, everything you think about just doesn't matter. What matters is that you're providing a living for adults that count on that paycheck every single week. And that's what keeps you up at night. And that's what keeps you driving, is solely to make sure that the people that come to work for you every day get their paycheck.
Well, that's not how everybody feels, though. So that's admirable that you do, though. That's good that you do that you have that kind of thought process. Some people might just be thinking about themselves and money for themselves and fuck everybody else. There's a lot of that going on in the world, too, unfortunately.
You cannot do that, especially in this world right now. The entire workforce industry has changed. And if you aren't grateful for who you have, you're going to lose that.
That's true. That's definitely true, too. Oh, yeah. I always end each episode with a charity. Is there a charity or a nonprofit that you like to support?
There's so many things. For instance, if you go to shiningsoul.com, we partner with Mission 22, which is a charity that helps with PSTD and suicide within soldiers in their communities. It's very important to me. And if you buy, you have to find the link on the site.
Okay.
And if you buy it particular from that link, 22% of all of our sales go to that charity.
Oh, cool.
We have a particular candle called the Fuck Cancer candle that 50% of that money goes to certain cancer charities.
Oh, nice.
And then we did a charity just recently that's over now for Australian cattle dogs. I own a relatively famous cattle dog. Yes, over 15,000 fans on Instagram.
Oh, that's more than me. Awesome.
His name is Boba the Blue Heeler, and he's my girlfriend's service dog, actually. But he's the first non-human that's ever been invited to go to a NASA rocket launch.
Wow.
He was the animal ambassador for NASA. You can go to their website and find all the pictures and all that stuff. He's been approached to be studied by 3 colleges because of how strangely intelligent he is.
Really? Fascinating.
Yeah. And so he's an Australian cattle dog, which by nature are incredibly intelligent breeds.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. And also I got to watch the Joe Rogan or Steven Tyler and David Lee Roth.
So my point to that is cattle dogs have an enormous amount of energy, and oftentimes people will buy them and can't handle them. Because they're these little dogs. In fact, he's right here. Boa, come here, buddy. Come here. I don't know if I can get him to jump up here or not. Come here. Come on. Up. Can you jump? Can you jump up? He's so calm right now.
Yeah, I don't hear a dog barking or anything.
No. He's beautiful. He's a stunning dog. And here he is. Hold on a second. Bubba, come on. He's on my leg, but I can't get it. I'm sitting up high on a bar stool.
Yeah.
So I can't
okay.
Hold on. Here he is.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Beautiful dog.
Bubba, say hi to the camera.
Hi.
So, but anyway, they're little dogs. So people buy these dogs and they're too much for them because they're brother, I'm not lying to you. Do the research. They're like the raptors in Jurassic Park.
Gotcha.
Like that dog can open and close every door in my house.
Wow.
And he knows every pair of shoes. If we say go get my Vans, he'll get my Vans, not my boots.
Wow.
And he'll bring them to you. So anyway, they require an enormous amount of attention, and a lot of people end up ditching them.
Oh.
So there's a whole charity for that.
That's sad.
And we raised an enormous amount of money at the beginning of the year for them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested in that, check out the Cattle Dog Association. But as far as us, I get my hands on a lot of charity these days, and I try to because I've never been in a position in my life to be able to give back.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the point in my life where I finally can. And I'm not, I don't need an airplane and I don't need a mansion. I've lived this far without all that stuff. So, it's important for me to do what I can for other people. So I try to get my hands in I don't have any particular charity, but I try to help.
Oh, it's awesome. You're doing a lot of great things. You have employees, you're helping with charities, and you're making great music for the world and raising awareness about the Ukraine thing. So all sorts of good stuff that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Wow, hearing that back, I sound better than I am.
Yeah, and you took the time to do my stupid little podcast, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much.
Podcast all day long with that Warrant and Poison thing behind you.
Yeah, dude, I could talk that stuff all the time. Let me know next time you're in Phoenix or something. If we'll go to a show.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Are you in Scottsdale or Phoenix?
Scottsdale.
Have you ever eaten at Jalapeño Inferno?
Yes. Is that still there? It's like North Scottsdale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right down from where Bret's old house was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have flown all the way to Arizona just to eat dinner.
That's awesome. No, yeah. I remember one time we went with my buddy, and he was an older guy, but he loved hot food. And they were like, don't they come around? They have like this hot sauce, and she's like dumping the hot sauce, and he's looking at her like more, and she's like, this is really hot. He goes, I don't care. And so she dumped a bunch more, and he ate it, and he didn't freak out and pass out from the spice. So
yeah, no, that's my favorite restaurant in the whole world, man. I love it. I was so depressed when Bret moved because that was where I would go whenever we were working or making records there.
Yeah. Why did he move? Like his kids went to school here and stuff, right?
The kids several years ago moved to Malibu.
Oh, well, that's pretty nice too, I guess.
Well, the schools and the different things that were available for the careers they were getting old enough to choose were there. So they went there, and they had the house there, and then the house here. But during COVID, he just decided to move on from that house and do some different things.
So he's got a house in Malibu, and is that the only? Does he have other houses?
No, he has a handful of properties all over. But the new Malibu house it's truly standing on top of the world. Like when I go there, I can't even comprehend. You can see the mountains from his front yard, and you can see the ocean from the backyard. And it's like, let's just stay here. Why do we have to go anywhere? Like,
yeah,
I've often said, let's just stream our shows from your backyard. You know what I mean? But his house in Arizona was that way too. It was probably my favorite place I'd ever spent an enormous amount of time in my life. It was if you said you'd been driven up near it, up in that cul-de-sac,
yeah,
it was very private. It was way out in the desert. There was only a couple of houses near him. It wasn't a neighborhood by any means. And I remember we would be making the first couple records, and we built a studio in one of his guest houses, and I would leave the door open, and I'd look back behind me, and there'd just be a bobcat staring in the window or in the door, or a coyote. I remember his guest house was probably 100 yards from his actual home down this hill. And some reason at night I was watching North America's 10 Deadliest Animals or something like that on TV. And you live there. I saw 7 of them myself that day.
Yeah, no, my parents live up in North Scottsdale. So I'll go, like, one time I remember when I was like, before I even moved here, I think I went to visit them, and there was a dead tarantula on their porch, like full on tarantula. I was like, those are here? Like in
the very first night. And I'm telling you a lot of stories I shouldn't tell anybody. Very first night when Bret first moved in that house, wasn't 100% moved in yet. And we were eating dinner, and I looked up, and for some reason I looked up, and sitting on the curtain was a live tarantula. Real thing, right? And you got the scorpions and the javelina pig and the coyotes,
the rattlesnakes
and the black widow spiders and the bobcat. So that was 7. And I'd seen all 7 of those animals within 24 hours of watching that show on his property.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, but scary.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm a camping guy out here on the East Coast, and I always want to go camping out there in that desert. But I think, man, I remember sitting at Bret's guest house and listening to those coyotes kill those rabbits and hearing the snake rattles and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I could make it through the night in a tent. It was scary enough in a house, right?
Yeah, no, it's certain. There's definitely some danger out there. I mean, we do a lot of hiking stuff. We don't do as much camping in the Phoenix Scottsdale area, like desert part, because there's a lot of crazy shit there.
Do you go out to that Mount Pleasant area?
Lake Pleasant, you mean?
Lake Pleasant, yeah. That's a lot of fun. I like that out there.
Yeah, have you ever been to Canyon Lake?
I have not.
Oh, that one's way better. It's like these giant canyons. It's totally like man-made. I mean, they made the lake because it's these big canyons, and then there's a lake. It's bizarre. It like messes with your head almost because I don't think it's like natural to have water, but it's beautiful. I mean, this is beautiful lake, and there's a cool like marina restaurant bar on that you can just have this amazing view.
I would love to see it. And are you from Arizona?
No, I'm from Seattle, believe it or not.
Oh, are you really? We just played in Seattle a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, did you? The casino?
Yes, but it was a casino we'd never played before or whatever.
Snoqualmie or? No,
we used to play that one all the time. We used to play that. And we used to play, there's a giant one that I can't remember we used to play with. It was like an indoor arena inside of it. But this one, I can't remember the name of what we played. But the Seattle, do you get back to Seattle much?
It's been not since the pandemic, but I'm going to be going again now that flying is like legal again or whatever. It's like safer. Like I said, I hate flying commercial. And then when they had the mask thing, I was like, dude, I don't want to sit on a plane for 5 hours with a mask. And
plus you're in the airport for 2 hours before that. That used to make me crazy. I would be flying during the pandemic to Bret's or to LA. And that becomes a 9 or 10 hour day of that mask on your face. It was
just too not pleasant for me. I mean, I would do road trips and stuff, but I didn't want to flying it was already annoying before that. Now at least they've taken the mask thing away for now, and so I'm going to try to fly back.
Seattle has seen a lot of change since the pandemic.
Oh, great! Yeah, it's already gone downhill since I left I left in 2008. I moved here, and I'd come back and I'd be like, "What the hell happened to my city?" It's like, so
I hate to say it, it was pretty unrecognizable from the last time I saw it. It's a lot, you know what I'm saying? What's going on up there? A lot of
the homeless. And there's a documentary. It's like a mini thing on YouTube called "Seattle is Dying," and it's really sad. It's like just because there was like all this. I don't know what happened, but all this homeless encampments, they just seem to encourage it or allow it or something. They're not helping these people. And I don't know. It seems inhumane to me, and I just feel bad for all the homeless people, but
there's solutions that aren't being taken care of.
No, exactly. You're exactly right. I'm just worried that's going to come here to Phoenix and Scottsdale. It seems like it's hitting a lot of big cities. It's this weird like technique where you just don't do anything and hope that it gets better. I don't really understand it, but
it's called the put your head in the sand attitude. I hate it.
I guess so. Yeah. I've heard things have gotten a little bit, I thought I heard they were getting better. They were starting to clean up some of the encampment. I know LA, cause they had the Super Bowl. So they had to clean up some of the homeless encampments and things, but I don't know if that was just for the Super Bowl and then they let it go back.
I mean, LA is LA. It's what it is. But, but the Seattle thing was just interesting to me. That our hotel, there was tons of homeless and tents and stuff outside of our really nice hotel in a really nice part of town. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's odd. My parents said they're from Seattle. They like lived there in the 70s. And they told me there was no homeless people when they first moved there. You didn't see that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. So before you wrap up, I'm sorry to take up too much of your time. I just want to make sure we circle back because the whole interview was supposed to be about promoting my best days.
Yes, the two songs, right? The best days and 99 Left Balloons cover. So the 99 song is not. Yeah. It's not on Spotify. I think it's only YouTube. Hello?
Some weird sound is happening. You there?
Yeah. I'm here. Are you still there? I'm freezing up.
Something's happening on me.
Did it pause? Did you?
Oh, I think I got you back. There
okay.
You go.
Yeah, no. Okay. So the two songs, yeah, but the best days, I just listened to that one right before the interview. Great song.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
What did it sound like to you?
Now I'm trying to remember. It sounded like God, I want to say, because I heard you like talking about the Bowling for Soup. It almost kind of reminded me of that, more of like a 90s kind of rock, pop rock.
It's funny you say that. You're the second person to pull a Bowling for Soup reference out of that. And those guys are, Jarrett's one of my good buddies too.
Right. Yeah. I think that's maybe why I thought of that. But that's kind of like when you say because it's hard to describe. I'm so bad at describing music, but it sounded more like of that era, kind of like a poppier 90s kind of rock, more than like an 80s kind of.
I produced it. If you go back and listen, I produced it intentionally to sound like a Bon Jovi record.
I could hear that. Yeah, I could hear that. It's definitely poppier. It's melodic. I like that kind of stuff, whether it's poppy and melodic, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever you want to call that. But I like stuff with a hook that's catchy, and it's got that.
Well, I didn't mean to go back to it. I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that the song's out. And
I'll put it in the notes. I'll put it when I post on social media. I'll say, this is my interview with Pete. He's got a new song out. So some people probably won't even listen to the interview, but they'll see that you have a new song out. So that'll help you, hopefully.
It's just like we said at the beginning, it's a positive message in the song. And I think that there might be a few people that want to or need to hear it. So right.
It said there's always, because we talked about how, inspiration to those who feel that if they've already lived in their prime, no matter how old or what diversity, there's always something better on the way. I like that message. I think that's great.
It has to be, or else it's not worth living. So
yeah, exactly. That's why we do everything. So that's why I started a podcast and everything. So I think we share the same philosophy on that. I love it.
Seems that way. Next time we do this, we'll do it in person at Jalapeños. I'll fly out there and we'll do a live podcast from the restaurant.
Sounds good, man. I'm in. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you having me on. I had a great time.
I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much.
All right, buddy.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you so much to Pete for coming on the show. Once again, make sure to check out his solo stuff. 99 Red Balloons is the cover, and My Best Days is the original song. And I just re-listened to that song, and I'm totally hearing the Bon Jovi stuff, so I don't know why I missed that before. Maybe I was mixing it up with the other solo stuff that he had. But the vocals and the riff are a little bit more 90s, but it's definitely got that guitar solo and the keyboards, which is more 80s. Very cool. Check it out and make sure to follow Pete on social media. You can follow me on there as well. I'm on everything. And if you want to support the show, you can subscribe wherever you watch or listen. And of course, your comments, likes, and shares and all that good stuff helps a lot with the algorithm, so more people will see it on social media or YouTube. And if you're just listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts, I think you can do a rating or a review, and that will help out in the same way. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen all the way through to this episode. Have a great rest of your day, and remember to shoot for the moon.